Hey everyone, I'm Casey, and in this video I wanted to talk about Alibaba, their stock, and where I think it's going in the short and medium, and especially the long term. So if any of you are watching this right now or close to the time of this video being uploaded, you're probably aware of all of the Chinese stock delisting scare, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. Basically, what's going on right now is the Trump administration over the last several weeks or month or two have been discussing the possible delisting of certain Chinese stocks that have ties to the Chinese military. Basically, any stocks that are traded on the American stock exchanges, such as like the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ, they want to delist them if they believe those companies are aiding the Chinese military, because in a roundabout way, essentially the American investors would be investing in the Chinese military. So in theory, in practice, not a bad idea. However, Alibaba and Tencent got thrown into this kind of category of possible delisting, and it turned out today actually that they are not on that list. And it's something that I originally was pretty sure was not going to happen. The other thing I wanted to address that's pretty specific to Alibaba, and I'll get more into it later on in the video, but I personally think Alibaba is a buy right now. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor, that's just my opinion. I own quite a bit of shares of it. I bought it quite a bit higher than it is now, and then on the day that the Chinese antitrust probe got announced and it dropped 15%, all the way down to around 220. I bought a lot more. I told a lot of my friends to look into it and buy it, because I personally think, which I'm about to get into, that those Chinese antitrust scares are pretty overblown. I think that there's most likely going to be a fine that Alibaba has to pay, or some guidelines that they have to start adhering to, but overall it is not going to hurt the company and be groundbreaking as some investors think it is going to be. If you look at Alibaba, and I'll put up some of the stats of their growth, they've been growing like absolute crazy. They're a huge tech company, huge market cap, just like Amazon, Facebook, all of these companies. Yet, because of all of these scares, the antitrust scares and then the delisting scares, and now we can already check the delisting scares off of our list. That's not going to happen. It came out today that it's not going to happen, and subsequently the stock Alibaba shot up, so did Tencent. But the remaining one of the antitrust scares caused the stock to basically wipe out its whole year's worth of gains. And if you look at any of the comparative big market cap companies, such as like Amazon is probably the closest competitor on the American side, because Alibaba is essentially like the Chinese Amazon. Amazon's up to like 70 or 80% on the year growth. You know, and as a lot of you know, like a lot of the other e-commerce COVID beneficiary stocks are up even higher. Alibaba definitely falls into that category, yet their stock has basically done nothing on the year. So I personally think the antitrust is not going to end up being a big deal, and I'll explain why. So some of you probably know, if you're watching this video, you're probably already informed, but for any of you who are not, or already are, I'll just kind of backtrack the whole reason of why the antitrust happened, and why I personally think it's more of a slap on the hand and like a hey, remember who's boss kind of thing. So Jack Ma is the founder of Alibaba, and several months ago, Ant Financial, which is a significant portion of that is owned by Alibaba, was about to go public, and it was about to be the biggest IPO in the history of IPOs. It was going to be like 30 billion, or I forget exactly the number. I'm sure I'm putting it up on the screen right now, but a huge deal. And what happened is, right before that IPO was scheduled to go through, like literally a few days before or a week before, Jack Ma was giving a speech, and he basically was calling out the Chinese government for stifling innovation, and basically said a lot of things that they did not like to hear. They didn't like it at all, and they subsequently pulled the plug on the Ant Group Financial IPO. They stopped it from being able to happen. So Alibaba's shares went down because of that, because they were going to benefit a lot from the IPO, and they and that was clearly in retaliation to what Jack Ma was saying. And then very shortly after that, the Chinese government announces that they are doing this antitrust probe into Alibaba. And if you look at the announcement of what the Chinese government said, and I'm probably putting it up on the screen, it doesn't say anything about breaking up Alibaba. It doesn't say anything necessarily crazy, like in terms of hurting the company. And in my opinion, it was more of a slap on the wrist, like I said, reminding Jack Ma who is boss, don't speak out on us because we have more power than you type of thing. And I think in the long term, even in the medium term, all of this negative downside to the stock, in my opinion, is relatively superficial. I don't think the fundamentals of the company are actually going to be changed. And I, of course, may completely be wrong in this regard. It is just my opinion. As I've said before, I'm not a financial advisor. All this is just my own opinion. But I do think Alibaba is somewhat a steal right now if you are going to compare it to all of the other richly valued COVID beneficiary stocks and all the stocks that grew like crazy this year and are going to continue to grow, but it is flat on the year. So for all of those reasons, I personally think Alibaba is a great stock to consider buying right now. There definitely may be a little bit more turbulence, but as I said, and I showed on the screen, we know for a fact they're not going to be delisted now. With the Biden administration coming in, they're going to not be as strict as the Trump administration on this whole delisting agenda. It was just the Trump administration that was bringing it up. So even the Trump administration saying Alibaba and Tencent are not going to be delisted, it's very, very unlikely that the Biden administration is going to want to reverse that change. So I think that issue is completely underneath our concerns right now. And the last thing, as a potential Alibaba shareholder or a current one like myself, is the antitrust concerns. And as I've repeated over and over in many different ways, I don't think it is something to worry about. So if any of you would like me to make a more in-depth video going over Alibaba's financials, their growth, I'd be happy to do that. I've done it all myself, doing my own due diligence before I purchased the stock. And I can, of course, share that in a future video if anybody is curious. But this whole video I wanted to make because it's a lot more timely on kind of the news side of Alibaba. And I personally think you should just kind of filter out the noise. Do your own due diligence, of course. Don't just buy a stock because I'm saying I personally did. But look into it. I personally think it is a steal right now to get into a growing, big, in my opinion, safe company, like fundamentally safe company at a relatively cheap valuation when compared to its peers, which are of course richly valued, but still comparatively somewhat fair. So that is enough from me. Let me all know what you think down below in the comments. I try to reply to every single comment. So far, I think I have, unless it was like just a nice video comment or something pretty short. I try to reply to every single one. So definitely leave one down below. Happy to make any videos on suggestions if you leave a comment down below, and just excited to keep making more videos. Right now I'm on a roll of a couple every day, so I'm gonna try to keep that up as long as I can. Maybe not on the weekends, but at least during the work weeks, I'll try my best. So anyway, like I said, comment down below anything at all. I'll get back to you. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and like the content. And I'll see you around. Thank you so much for watching.